Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace, mercy, and blessings of God be upon you. And obviously, welcome back to the show, The Goal of the Wise. I'm your host, Ardian al-Mahdi.
I'm Hussam al-Mahdi.
And I'm Jamil al-Ahmadi.
So this is going to be the third episode and hopefully the final episode on door number 8 of The Goal of the Wise concerning the celestial bodies. So far, it's been a cool trip, I would say. It's been something that's kind of like mind-blowing, kind of like a very experimental trip, I think, for at least for us, concerning the Goal of the Wise and the celestial bodies. If you guys want to join us in this amazing trip and this amazing journey, then check out the QR code on the screen. Hopefully, if we can pull it up, which will, if you scan it, will allow you to go ahead and download the book yourself. And the book is available in English, Arabic, German, French, Spanish, and many other languages, and hopefully many more to come. So without further ado, let's get back into it. And we actually left off on page, I believe it's 134, where we were talking about the celestial bodies, and we were talking about, 133. We were talking about Jupiter, we were talking about Saturn, we were talking about the other planets, and what narrations had to say about these planets. And Abu Sadiq, he mentions, now in the very last paragraph of page 133, he's now talking about the star system Sirius and the identity of Sirius, which we'll be discussing hopefully at the end of this episode. But for now, let's talk about what the ancient Egyptians believed in and what this verse in the Quran says. If we could pull up the verse on the screen from Surah An-Najm, it says, "And verily, He is the Lord of Sirius." And Abu Sadiq makes it very clear that, ancient civilizations used to worship this star. One of those ancient civilizations that worshipped the star Sirius were the Egyptians. And if we pull up the next slide, we have a goddess by the name of Sopdet. Sopdet is the ancient Egyptian personification of the star Sirius. And if you notice, she has a star, a 5-pointed star over her head. And on the next slide, we find her again depicted, ingrained into the wall with a 5-pointed star above her head at the Dendera temple complex in Egypt. And in the next slide, which will be the last slide for this goddess, she is again found depicted in the tomb of Seti I. Now, why is this interesting? It's interesting because Sirius is a star which was worshipped, and you could come back to us. Sirius was a star which was worshipped. It was a star worshipped by the ancient peoples. And it is always depicted in pop culture today as a pentagram, a 5-pointed star. And over here, the ancient people obviously included the 5-pointed star above this goddess, who they believed to be the personification of Sirius. Thus proving the words of Abu Sadiq that, okay, these people used to worship Sirius, and she was someone who was worshipped in ancient Egypt in those times. She was considered Sirius. So, Sirius, the people used to worship these stars because they believed that their prayers were answered, and they believed that by looking at them, they were able to understand what was going on with them and what will go on with them. And that's why if we pull up the next slide, we find a verse from the Quran that says, from Abraham, when he looked up into the stars, it says, so he took one look at the stars and he said, "I am sick." So we see here that stars play a huge role, and we see here that God is obviously telling us that these stars are people that I guess were associated with worship, or angelic beings or demonic beings that were associated with these entities, or like Sirius was.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we have discussed in the last episode for sure that what are planets, right? Are planets just rocks floating in space that are made out of gases and dusts and different materials and different elements? We have shown that Abu Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam has told us that these planets are not just like some rocks that are empty. In fact, that they were living bodies. They are bodies that carries the light. They carry the light of the believers, and they are actually believers. So they are beings. We're not talking about a dust. Yeah, if we are star dust, then they are stars themselves. So if we are alive, then it's also kind of, you can say there's also a correlation between this and that. We also discussed the matter of like if we have different eyes, we would not see the stars in the current state that we have. We're seeing currently.
Yeah.
They would look different. They would have maybe different shapes. They would have maybe different colors. They would have different auras, different whatever it is. They would not look the same. Just like we don't look the same to other beings that have different eyes. Like and
even with Prophet Abraham, when he looked into the sky, he did not see just rocks floating in space. For him, it was deities, or it was something that looked as if they were worthy of worship. Kind of like how when the angels, when they saw Prophet Muhammad going on his night journey, what were they saying? They said, is this our Lord? And some would say, hey, it's Allah, right? And then like Gabriel would have to correct them and say, no, God is even greater than that, right? But they said, well, this is similar to the light of God, or this is similar to the Spirit of God. And if we play the next clip, we'll see how Abraham's reaction was to some of these astral or celestial bodies.
And thus did we show Abraham the realm of the heavens and the earth, that he would be among the certain in faith. So when the night covered him with darkness, he saw a star. He said, "This is my Lord." But when it set, he said, "I like not those that set disappear." And when he saw the moon rising, he said, "This is my Lord." But when it set, he said, "Unless my Lord guides me, I will surely be among the people gone astray." And when he saw the sun rising, he said, "This is my Lord, this is greater." But when it set, he said, "O my people, indeed I am free from what you associate with Allah. Indeed, I have turned my face, that is, self, toward He who created the heavens and the earth, inclining toward truth, and I am not of those who associate others with Allah."
Well, so that's pretty interesting how even Abraham himself would look at the astral bodies, the celestial bodies, and he would wonder to himself, is that God? Is that my Lord? Is that someone from perhaps Muhammad and the family of Muhammad? Who are these celestial beings?
Yeah, exactly. And it's very clear to see from, because we're closing on this chapter 8, the celestial bodies, that all of this knowledge is knowledge of God that came from God. And as we mentioned, Sofdat is an ancient Egyptian goddess. We know Osiris comes a little later and sort of comes with, again, more knowledge. And this Osiris, the name Osiris is the same as Hermes Trismegistus and the same as Enoch. So he comes with, again, this knowledge of God and the clarification of it, and the same way that he tells his people about the knowledge of the stars, astronomy, astrology. Abraham comes, and when he's looking at the stars, he doesn't just see lights in the sky. He doesn't just see physical matter. He sees like a codex. He sees information. He sees knowledge that has been given to him from God. That, as you said in the verses there, that he can see from there that he's sick and he has an ailment, right? Because it's written in the stars, as we keep saying. And he has this knowledge that not everything that is in front of your face is all that there is. Because obviously he sees the sun, it sets. He sees the moon, it sets. He sees all of these things that are not eternal, not like forever there to guide him, and he can sort of discern that because he has this true knowledge from God, and he isn't sort of again, I wouldn't say ignorant, but doesn't have this knowledge, unfortunately. But luckily enough, he is the vicegerent of God. He comes forward, teaches the people, and you can see this from the knowledge that he brings forward.
Yeah, and Eve alayhi salam in the first chapter, as we discussed earlier, in the first chapter of the Goal of the Wise, Eve alayhi salatu salam, when they came down from heaven, she was by herself. She was lonely. She was going to give birth. And she looked into the stars and she spoke to the stars, and the stars actually went and informed Adam, and Adam found the location of this of Eve through this kind of means. So we're talking about again, we're not talking about something that just meets the eye. We're talking about some knowledge that is deep, that has been made hidden from us. That's something that we don't ourselves. When we look into the stars, we just see lights.
Exactly.
We know maybe if you have a telescope, you would see a star that's like floating and doing this stuff. But to them, they did not see the same thing. It's as if there was a universal language that got lost throughout time, throughout history, and only very few. And we actually proved that again in the last episode by saying only two families, the Imam alayhi salatu wasalam said, only two families, one in the Arab land and one in India, that had that language, the language of the stars, after the changing of the stars multiple times and the locations of them. So the idea is that it's very clear that we're talking about actual bodies of believers. We're talking about the star of Imam Ali. We're talking about Sirius, which is as we will discover who that is later on in the episode. Basically, these are beings which, in the same way we call upon each other to help one another. Like I can call upon Jamil right now and say, hey Jamil, can you help me out? And Jamil can decide to come or not come. Maybe if I help Jamil in something, he will help me too. Exactly. There is a relationship that can be built with these stars as well. So that's how these ancient people at the time, they would sacrifice something to that star and they would worship it by asking it for something in return. So they would give something and they would get something in return. They would do something specific and there is a return.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. And if it's and obviously if these beings are someone who God allows that intercession takes place between us and them, I mean, there is no harm then that Eve, for example, calls upon these two celestial beings and said, "Oh, luminary beings in the star, inform Adam of my location, etc." And the same thing is kind of like with the story, and I've always repeated the story because it is one of my favorite stories, the story of Joseph, where Joseph sees in his dream the sun and the moon and the planets prostrating to him. And Imam Ahmad al-Hassan, from him is peace, in the book of Monotheism, in his own interpretation, right, had said that the sun represents Muhammad, and the moon represents Ali, and the planets represent the Imams. And Abu Sadiq, from him is peace, also gave us more info, where he actually told us that the sun and the moon and the planets in the dream of Joseph was not something for the time of just Joseph. It was actually more so for this time period, in which the sun, who is Jacob, and the moon, who is Rachel, and the 11 planets, who are the true brothers of Joseph, come and support him in this era, in this time, as the Qa'im, as a riser of the family of Muhammad. And by the way, Abu Sadiq himself is one of these celestial beings in the sky, and we will be talking about who he is soon, inshallah. But nonetheless, since we've already established that the Imams, the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, the prophets and messengers and the believers are stars up in the sky, are planets up in the sky, are suns and moons, let us look at what the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam have to say in the following clip concerning who they are.
Abu Ja'far, from him is peace, said, "We are like the stars of the sky. Whenever a star disappears, another star rises, until the matter to which you point with your fingers, and regarding which you raise your eyebrow comes. Then God will hide your star from you, and the children of Abdul Muttalib will appear similar, and it will not be known which is which. So if your star rises, praise your Lord."
Okay, then, well, there you have it. We have that the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, they made themselves out to be stars. They made it very clear. They're the ones who are meant to be followed. When one of them dies, when one of them no longer exists, another star rises in their place. I mean, this is obviously an indication that stars have to do with the births, deaths of individuals.
Exactly, and just as you said, the narration or the story of Jacob and the prophet, Jacob and the story of Joseph, Jacob, Rachel, and the planets being his brothers are in the time of Joseph, but it's also the time of now. We know from the hadith and stuff that he's not just Joseph, the son of Jacob, he's Yusuf from the family of Muhammad too, right? So
exactly.
So Joseph then is Joseph now, and obviously the matter is greater in this time because of again who is prostrating to him in this narration. And just as to add to that point, which you just raised there on that video, we see the same in the story of which we mentioned yesterday, like Abraham, Moses, Jesus, when all of their births were pointed out by astrologers and astronomers, advisors to kings or I guess tyrants, in like the story of Jesus, King Herod, where the story of the three magi, they follow the star that is basically leads them to the birthplace of Jesus, because again they had the knowledge of the stars. So this is just another sort of evidence of that point, that is from a different I guess gospel from the Bible, that just adds to that point to really emphasize and to show that this is a fact this is a fact. It's a matter of fact that this is a knowledge that we've lost in this time. And if we had it, we could do different things. But it's become hated, which we mentioned yesterday.
Yeah, and I think yet another narration from the family of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, when the Imam alayhi salatu wasalam is asked about the matter of the Qa'im. And he says, this matter will not happen until the stars misalign. And they were asking him, and it's basically the narration says, حتى يختلف الفلك فقيل متى أهلك في أي واد سلك. So it says basically that this matter is not going to happen until the stars misalign, and they will be saying, where is he? Is he dead? Or which valley did he take? And then they asked him, what is this what is this stars? This changing of the stars? He says he did his hands like this. And he said, this is how the Shia will be. So he compared his believers, the Shia, with the stars. And he says, when the stars kind of misalign, then the Shia becomes like this, and they will start cursing one another, spitting on each other's faces, doing all that kind of stuff, which is almost like a galactic battle that's happening between the stars in a way.
As above, so below, basically that concept. Whatever is happening up there is happening down here.
Which is unfortunate,
Yeah, and it is unfortunate. So if the stars are not aligned up there, well, then the stars, which are the believers, are not aligned down here. So that is unfortunate.
We see that actually in today's present day. If you actually look into the Shia today, for example, well, just think about it. As we said earlier, if the moon can change the moods of people, and it can change the moods and it affects the psyche of animals on this planet, well, why are the people themselves right now, their psyche is not really in line? Why is the Shia, for example, why are they disagreeing in this level of disagreement? Because they keep rotating around certain scholars, and this amount of people go rotating behind the Sistani. Another amount of people go rotating around say Khamenei, and they disagree between each other. These guys, they themselves have different opinions about the truth and reality and the Ahlul Bayt and what they want. So what happens then? You'll start to find the stars actually misaligning and actually fighting each other. So it does make sense, and the Prophet and Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam predicted what's happening in the state of the Shia Islam, Sunni Islam today. It is literally, you guys are following different scholars who are different, different beings in the heavenly realms. You might be following a black hole and you don't know. You're not even aware of it, because they're suctioning the life out of you. They're suctioning light, knowledge, every piece of light in you, they take it out.
But the one person that they need to rotate around truly is the one sent by God. So instead of revolving around these black holes or these mock stars, or these stars that are just about to die and take all the other planets that are rotating around them with them, they have to rotate around, or they have to gravitate to the one appointed by God. And for sure there is a planet coming to the Arabs, and has really actually come to the Arabs, that is really striking fear into the Arabs. Now I believe we have another video to play, correct me if I'm wrong, and okay, so we don't have another video, but I believe that we do have another slide where we can now talk about what it is, and it starts with, in fact, hopefully we can pull up the screen. In fact, in the narrations about the signs of the emergence of Imam al-Mahdi from peace be upon him and his family, there exist narrations that about the appearance of something called a red planet. So let me just go over the narrations. We find one narration that says, the rise of the planet with 2 comets. So bear with us here. There is a narration that talks about a planet. This planet is followed by 2 comets that terrifies the Arabs. And it is a planet in the east that shines as the moon shines. So, okay, over here we find in this narration that there's a planet that comes with 2 comets that terrifies the Arabs. It's interesting because, I mean, why is it that this planet, that when it appears, is going to terrify the Arabs? Is it a literal planet? Will the people see a planet show up in the sky that's going to freak them out? Well, I mean, it did freak out. I mean, Pharaoh in the time, and it freaked out Nimrod. These different stars that would appear. But let's continue. Let's see what's going on.
Just one moment. If the basic to intercede basically here, if a planet is to come in that physical sense that the planet is coming down from the sky, I think not just the Arabs would be freaked out. I think the whole world would be freaked out. You know? So it's like something specific going on here.
Yeah, like, so for example, I remember back in 2012, everyone imagined that Nibiru, this planet, is going to smash into the Earth. So it wasn't really just the Arabs that were freaking out. Everyone was freaking out.
It's like a planet hits Earth, it's over.
No, for sure. I mean, it's a planet collision. It means the extinction of humanity altogether. But since that cannot be the case, we have to look further. And we find another hadith in the book, The Goal of the Wise, which says, and this is at the time of the rising of the planet, which terrifies the Arabs, and it resembles a comet. It is then that the rain shall cease, and the rivers shall dry up, and the storms shall vary, and the prices of all countries shall rise. So this planet that rises has such a heavy effect on the planet that the rising of this planet is basically punishing the inhabitants of the earth, especially the Arabs. But guys, the only red planet that we find ever that in our history, that when we look up into the sky, we see that there is a red dot.
Yeah.
This red planet, if we can pull up the slide for what this planet is the red planet Mars. This is the planet that the narrations are talking about. And if we go on to the next slide, we find that Mars has two moons that look like comets. Phobos and Deimos. Phobos for fear and Deimos for terror and dread. And, back to us. What do we find from this narration? Let's go back to the narration one more time. It says that there's a planet with two comets that terrifies the Arabs. SubhanAllah. Okay, so Mars has two comets called fear and dread and terror.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay, we have that. Right off the bat, we understand now that Phobos is fear, Deimos is terror and dread, and it's following Mars. It rotates around Mars. And it is a red planet. So we can see here, without a shadow of a doubt, without any argument now, without any second guessing, that this is a planet. But now the question is, who is that planet?
Exactly. And this is one of the things that I love most about The Goal of the Wise, because anyone that's got this book at home, and if you don't, we encourage you to go ahead and download it and read it, because I've mentioned it before in different shows and stuff, but The Goal of the Wise is like one of my favorite books. Why? Because it's written for people in this time in very plain language, easy for everything for you to easily understand, right? And what I think is beautiful about it, especially towards the end for a couple of chapters, is really a book of a person, the Qaim of the family Muhammad, that is sincerely searching for God and looking for God, and his father, his teacher, his master, his everything, actually. And you can see, like, there's a lot of pages in here that give hadiths and narrations and explain very clearly from a narrative point of view the points. But my favorite parts in it, parts of the book, are the conversations between father and son.
It is really cool.
And this is where we come to now, because Abu Islam has always been someone that is searching for the truth, looking for the truth, and he obviously questions things and looks into these hadiths, and he's the one that obviously wrote all of these evidences. Like, you would never have heard that Mars is a planet, and to connect these dots between this hadith and then this planet with the two moons that mean terror and fear and all these kind of things. And you can also tie that to the hadith that says the matter will be difficult upon the Arabs, because when this planet comes,
the Arabs are the ones who are terrified.
Exactly, when the planet comes, it's going to be difficult for the Arabs. So it's the same. So again, who is it talking about? It's talking about this person. It's talking about the red planet, which is Abu Islam. This is Mars. And in The Goal of the Wise, it's obviously a back and forth conversation. We're not going to read it word for word, but Abu Saik is humble at first. He's not even mentioning himself, but then it comes to him by the proofs and evidences and the calculations. He asks his father, by my calculations, by all of the evidences that are out there on the table, I guess then it, is it me? And he's yes, then it's you. Well done, kind of thing, right?
You did the correct calculations. Like the person who's before, who stood in front of the Imam, and he says, "Who's Jupiter? Where's Jupiter?" And he says he does his calculations, and he says, that's you.
Exactly.
And then he falls down dead. Instead here, he's just confirming for him, good job, you found out. You solved the riddle.
You did your research and your scrutinizing, you did all the calculations you needed, and you've come to the correct answer.
Yeah.
And what, do you know what's really cool about this fact? What's really cool about that Abu Sadiq is actually Mars is that the Mandaeans, and that's what Abu Sadiq says, the Mandaeans said that Mars was Abdullah Hashim, the son of Abdul Muttalib.
Exactly.
Which was one of Abu Sadiq's past incarnations.
Exactly.
Now, if you guys are interested about reincarnation, this is something we're going to go over in the next episode after this one, inshallah. Yeah. But it's really cool. One of the incarnations that I really have to talk about now, is one of the incarnations of Mars, which is Abu Sadiq, the Qa'im of the family of Muhammad, is Alexander the Great.
Yes.
And Alexander the Great, I'm not sure if you guys know about this, but Alexander the Great in his time, when he was fighting against the Persians, he would make sacrifices, right? But not to the god of war Mars. He made sacrifices to the two comet planets, the two sons of the god of war Mars. Deimos and Phobos, Deimos and Phobos, before he went off into battle, which is now like a confirmation that Alexander the Great probably also knew of his own reality. That's why he didn't make sacrifices to his own self, but he did make sacrifices to Phobos and Deimos, according to what is in the history books concerning what Alexander the Great
this
had.
all fits together so well that it's impossible that it's just a coincidence. There is no coincidence in us to begin with. We do not believe in coincidences.
No, for sure.
So the fact that like this history aligns from all the way back then, all the way to today with the Ahlul Bayt, through Ahlul Bayt's religion, alayhi salatu wasalam, till Abu Sadiq, alayhi salatu wasalam, that is a miracle. And this is by its own right a proof and evidence for those who have minds to see and hearts to feel with. The idea to be mindful with. So the idea is that when you're talking about like something where, like as you said, Alexander the Great is talking about like these two comments that are around him. How does it make sense? Who was the teacher of Alexander the Great? We know it's Aristotle. We know it's these people who were interested in stuff like this. The teacher of Aristotle, who you go backwards, you'll find that actually these teachers were aslan interested to begin with the stars and the calculations and the physics of the world and the whole sciences in that aspect. So they must have taught him this knowledge, and at the same time he must have learned it and picked it up, and he knew he was actually Mars, and that's why he's sacrificing to his two companions.
Yeah, because they're the ones who always accompany.
Yeah, and what are they? I mean, what are their names? You know, look at what their names are. What kind of attributes and powers do they carry? You know, like that's a secret on its own. You know, that we have to unlock at some point.
Yeah, hopefully, maybe Abu Sadiq will one day reveal more concerning this, because my God, the idea of like these planets and how they have effects. Like he only really scratched the surface. So if anyone is shocked, like for us, this is just scratching the surface. Like we got so used to this knowledge. For us, it's just surface level now. And we're really hoping that one day, like, we really get down into the nitty-gritty about the souls and the planets. And actually, concerning the planets, Abu Sadiq even asked the Imam, how much do these planets, these planetary bodies, have an effect on our lives? And he said that the cosmos affect us by the percentage of 89%. So 89% of our actions and our movements, 89% of it is already written in the stars. So the only leeway that we have is only 11%.
11% free will.
Yeah, 11% free will. So like, why? Why is that the case? Well, because the area that you're born in, and the environment that you're in, and the choices that people make that affect your outlook on life has a major effect on you. It's already written, because when your soul descends into that body, when that and by the way, the souls are the planets. So when the planets shine upon a person, that is the person now having a soul. So that person is now, his destiny being written in the stars is now being affected by that planet, which is now shining upon them.
Yeah, and the one thing that you have to consider is that how many processes inside of you that you do not control, and you cannot even control at this present moment. You know, can you gain knowledge to increase that 11%? I would love to ask Sadiq that question specifically, because like then you have like people who have become free. You have people who, we will talk about the ranks of the free and all that kind of stuff later on. But then the idea is that yes, it does make sense. In fact, even if you are an atheist, it does make sense that you say about 11% free will. You know, that number kind of like that you don't know how, but it's inside of you. You know that this is real. You know that this is very close to reality, even if you don't believe in Abu Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, but you have this knowledge inside of you that so much of this world you cannot control at all.
Yeah.
So much of this world you are not absolutely have nothing to do with it. You could be planning your whole day to do something, and then suddenly a car accident happens. You just have zero control over things. Therefore, when it comes to that outside source, but yes, we do have to. I seem to be able to right now choose to pick up the phone, the book and close
this
it.
Could be the 11%.
You see what I'm saying? I have some leeway, in this world, in this virtual reality world. So I do have some leeway, but it's already the stories have been written. Exactly. So it's like a mixture of the two, like reality.
I was just going to say that because when you look at the stories of Alexander the Great and you look at the hadiths of the Qayyim, the family of the Riser, there's a lot of things that sort of like ordained or have happened. They're both like conquerors that go forward. And what's Alexander the Great known for? Creating a great empire. And what's the Qayyim known for? Coming forward and establishing and spreading the divine just state. So there's like a lot of similarities, and it makes sense that it would be the same star that's controlling both of these people or these incarnations, because they have similar roles and similar missions, I guess. Exactly. Just returning to the Goal of the Wise, as just continuing on, because as you said, this book is like full of gems. And I remember when Absite was releasing it, and we had it by chapter, we was extremely lucky. And he was saying, back then that, these doors, they open hundreds of other doors. So there's doors within these doors. So this is why we're able to, make one paragraph a 45-minute episode, because the more you research, the more you find, the more questions you have, the more supporting evidence you have, and you can just expand upon it. But another, a sort of jaw-dropping thing that is presented here is in a conversation with Abu Salih Islam and Dr. Salah Khoury here, and he speaks about the star Sirius, because obviously he was an Egyptian architect, knows a lot about Egyptian culture and ancient Egyptian religion, and again, as you said at the start of the episode, the worship of the star Sirius, right? Yeah. So without giving too much away of the actual conversation, the top and bottom of it is actually the fact that the star Sirius is actually Iblis, and it's the sort of sun that powers the sun, right? Is what they see it as. And I just want to bring up a slide, because we can get into the next planet that we want to reveal and do a comparison and talk about that, because it's very interesting and kind of makes a bit more sense when you have these bits of knowledge. So let's get the next slide up. It's this from Surah Al-Araf, and it said, Allah said, "What prevented you from prostrating when I commanded you?" Satan said, "I am better than him. You created me from fire and created him from clay." So we see here that Satan is saying, you created me from fire, right? We know now Iblis is the star Sirius. The stars are made from fire. And when you think of it like that, then he must be talking about you created him, being who? Adam, right? So then Adam must be then the one that's made of clay. And what is made of clay? Where are we upon? What is the story? It's talking about earth. So
our bodies are made of clay. That's one. So where did we come from?
Earth,
right?
There we go. So we know that Adam is earth, and Iblis, Satan is Sirius, which is a star made of fire, made of earth. So from him and his arrogant standpoint, he's like, why would I bow down to something that, one, I created, which we'll get into in another episode, or we've probably got into already, and two, something like, I'm actually fire, like this is earth, like why would I prostrate to that? And obviously what he doesn't know is the secret behind him, that Imam Ali, and the light that is within Adam, that is animating him, is obviously of a higher creation of him, but it just gives you another sort of dimension to that story now.
We spoke about this, that Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam's light was created, or the soul was created by Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam. So the idea is that it's very clear now, comparisons, right? The body is a vessel, this earth is a vessel which contains that spirit, which is from Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam's light. So it's actually very clear that what you're making the comparison, or the connections are very intense, because you start to look into, we're starting to almost see things in universal terms. We're not talking now just human, my hair, getting up to eat food and stuff like that. You're actually talking about galactic movements, and galactic connections, that minds that are on a different level than ours, So it is really fascinating. Things that have been made hidden for the past minimum 1,400 years for the Muslims, at least. you know. So the idea, these are made hidden, knowledge that is made hidden. Yes, some people might have thought about the stars being planets and being beings and stuff like that, but this level of connection where you're saying actually Satan is Sirius and he's from over there looking at Adam who's mud, you know, and this story comes up into a completely different, like if we were to actually produce a movie today, it would not look like how they make movies about Adam and Eve at all. It would be something completely different. It would be the stars doing things, you know. But like for them, it's Adam, you know, bodies and doing things. But at the same time, of course, there is a human aspect to it. You know?
Yeah, and you know what's funny is that you know, because we have to like draw this point, right? Since we know that Sirius is Iblis, and that Iblis, the reason why he didn't prostrate to Adam is because he said, "I'm created from fire," because Sirius is made of fire. Adam was created from clay because he understands that the soul of Adam is earth, and earth is soil made from earth's soil is mainly clay. Mars, on the other hand, right? Mars. The soil of Mars is mainly consisted of iron, mainly, right? And what's funny about Mars, right? What's funny about Mars, it's a red planet because its soil is mainly consistent of iron. That's why it's a red planet. And we know from the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam that the Qa'im of the family of Muhammad, he comes as a conqueror. He comes as someone with the iron. He comes as someone who makes the world submit to his authority, right? Yeah. Someone who comes as a conqueror. That's why we have, instead Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, we also have Bismillah al-Wahid al-Qahar, right? And the Qa'im of the family of Muhammad, where was he born? And where did he mainly grow up? He grew up in the city of Cairo, which actually in Arabic is Al-Qahira, the vanquisher or the conqueror. And actually the truth of the matter is that that city used to be called, it was derived from the name Al-Najm al-Qahir, which is the conquering star or the vanishing or conqueror star. So that's actually something interesting, that the place that Abu Salih grew up in is actually related to him also being the Qa'im, the city of Cairo, which is fascinating. And so we can see that for sure there's a relationship between names, stars, people, planets. I mean, oh my God, there's a lot of things interconnected here. And I think one of the biggest things that I think nobody can ever dispute, otherwise, like you have to say like that, like you know, otherwise we have to say that God is playing games, is this man by the name of Mark Twain. Mark Twain is a very, very famous man. If we could pull up the slide about Mark Twain and what he says concerning himself, you guys will be fascinated. Mark Twain, what does he say? He quotes himself, right? He writes, there's a biography from Mark Twain stating, "I came in with Halley's Comet in 1835. It is coming again next year, and I expect to go out with it. It will be the greatest disappointment of my life if I don't go out with Halley's Comet." The Almighty had said, no doubt, now here are these two unaccountable freaks. They came in together, they must go out together. And the truth of the matter is, and you can come back to us, the truth of the matter is that Mark Twain, as a matter of fact, everyone knows this. You can go and look it up. You can go and look up the books, the internet, Wikipedia, Google, whatever. You'll find that Mark Twain was indeed born when Halley's Comet came in 1835, and he died when it left. So he predicted not only the fact that, okay, well, when this happened, when I was born, Halley's Comet came. But hey, like according to my calculations, so Mark Twain was a smart guy, he calculated. According to my calculations, if this is the case, if I am Halley's Comet, when Halley's Comet comes back and leaves, I'm going to leave with it. He predicted his own death. He calculated and predicted his own death, something that nobody can deny because it is historical fact.
It happened.
It happened. Is it a coincidence?
I mean,
what kind of coincidence is that?
I mean, the guy said it will happen.
How can you make a coincidence like this? It just doesn't make any sense.
I mean, unless he committed suicide, but he did not.
He didn't commit suicide. That's the thing. He had a heart attack. So the idea is that it's also, we find this language of the stars is almost ingrained in every aspect of our being since we're children. You have video games that talks about like Super Mario Brothers, or where you have to gather stars and you have to reach for the stars and all of that stuff. And you have just basically our whole society is made up of that. You have stars, like movie stars. They call them movie stars. Why? Because they elevated above the normal, and their dreams have become fulfilled, as Abba Sadiq says in the Gold Wise. Their fulfilled dreams. Yes, they became stars. So now something is also very interesting about that. Is that when you look into this worship of stars has happened throughout the thousands of years. So now, since we have it in our culture and it's ingrained in our children's behavior and manners since they're children, this is something that's going to escalate now. So you look into further, you find Freemasons, for example, who actually do go through and they do worship they do worship Sirius. That's one of the things that they do throughout history. They've actually proven, and it's a proven fact that actually that they do worship Sirius. The ancient civilizations, like we said before, Egypt worshipped Sirius, the Freemasons worshipped Sirius. The G in the Freemason compass actually represents the God, but for them, the God that they believe in is Sirius. But obviously, we had revealed that Sirius is actually Satan, and there were many cultures and many civilizations before that used to worship this star. And what's interesting is the goddess that we showed, one of the symbols of this goddess, they said, is not just Sirius, but is also dogs. And if we pull up the next slide of Canis Major, right? Canis Major, this constellation, depicts what looks like a dog. And at the neck of this dog-shaped constellation is the star system Sirius. And if we go over to the next slide, we see that from Orion's belt downwards, we see that it is pointing towards Sirius. And Sirius in this picture, as you can see, is the brightest star in the night sky, which is probably why they also affiliated with being the creator of the universe, because it is the brightest star that you see in the night sky. It is the most obvious one that you see in the northern hemisphere, and it is something that the people of the Dogon tribe worshipped. And what's funny, and that's what Abu Salih pointed out, it's that isn't it funny actually that this constellation, which is a dog spelled backwards, is God. So for them, that is their God. That is the location of their God. That is the spirit, the soul of their God.
Exactly. And you see a lot of this stuff in major movies and pop culture everywhere. You see this wish upon a star thing, and it's very ingrained in our psyche in this day and age. I guess ideology of this star, right? The stars everywhere. We was even looking at it in Hollywood on the Walk of Fame, the Hollywood Walk, where they have the stars on the floor. So everybody wants to be a star. I remember being a kid and going out and you see a shooting star, make a wish, make a wish. It's a thing. It's undeniable. So
it's our story.
Exactly. It's really, and we've painted it. We've put all the evidence on the table, like we have with all the other cases that we've brought to the table, and it's very clear to see now that this knowledge of stars, the worship of stars, everything star related has a very true and real origin, and it's a knowledge that can be used for your benefit or for your downfall. In what we saw with the stories of Joshua and David going to wars and not having that knowledge at first. And you see it again, as you mentioned, with the Freemasons who, derive their power from this source, and they have knowledges that have been obviously hidden, and they, as you mentioned yesterday, where they keep the true knowledges for themselves and spread distractions and false information and stuff to make sure that people aren't able to benefit how they benefit. And I mean, this is what we're seeing today, to sort of wrap up the chapter, because it mentions it clearly, that we live in a universe created by Sirius, the soul of the beast, which we mentioned in the previous episodes. And this whole battle is now the story of the children of Iblis, the children of Satan, versus the children of Adam. This whole story of, I will not prostrate to him. I'm made of fire. Why would I prostrate to him when he's made of clay? This is what we're seeing play out until today, from 10,000 years ago, with the coming of that story and the coming of Adam and the creation of this universe. We see that it's something that is still happening until this very day, where we have to now sort of wake up and realize that all of these sort of cases, these evidences that we're bringing to the table, are pointing to this one man who is the Qiyam who is Mars, who is the riser of the family Muhammad, the one that will go forward like Alexander the Great and create a divine state on earth, in which, you know, these children of Satan, these children of Iblis, the star Sirius, will no longer rule over us and use, I guess, God-given knowledges, because that's where, in effect, that Satan himself got it from, against us, because, I mean, this is what we've seen happen time and time again. And just to put that point out there, that this is the true way, and to go forward and download the Goal of the Wise and read about this for yourself and to understand what is really happening here, because as we keep mentioning, there's a lot more that is meeting the eye here. We're not talking about little lights in the sky anymore. We're talking about celestial bodies that are controlling humanity from Adam until now.
Yeah, and it's a lot to digest. I mean, something that you said, which I think kind of maybe flew over the heads of some people, is that we're actually stating that Sirius is the star that created everything in this physical universe. Iblis is the creator of this universe. Maybe some people right now might be thinking, well, that's blasphemy. And, you know, we kind of like gave it out nonchalantly. But, I mean, it's written in the book. And don't worry, you know, stick around, and we're going to talk more about how it is that Iblis created this world. And, I mean, now it makes sense. I mean, if he did create this world, and if the people see and understand that Sirius did create this physical world, that is the reason why they believe him to be the God of this world, because he created this world. But nonetheless, don't worry your little hearts. We're going to be talking about that in the coming chapters. Right now, what you should worry about is, well, if Sirius is a star and stars incarnate as human beings, well then, who else is incarnated here? And is reincarnation true? Well, we're going to delve into that in the next episode, where we're going to explicitly talk about reincarnation, which I think a lot of people, especially of the Abrahamic faiths, are going to hate us for, because they see it as something heretical. But anyway, love us, hate us, it's all good. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.